Yeah, and the EFI manual, which we're going to make available on our website, I have in our team documents already, is really thorough description of how you get there, because that's part of the challenge when we think about the measurement, and that's part of one of the most frequent topics that we hear about is inter-rater reliability. All right, how do you do that? And we have these quantitative approaches, Cronbach's alpha coefficient. We rely on that and we look at that. And then you have the problem of somehow putting reliability around these ratings. And what I learned from and being I'm a quant nerd, whatever. I lean that way. My brain still works that way as much as my work with Dedoose so much more qualitative. My brain still works in very quantitative ways, and I think there's a lot we do with those measures. But in order to think about it from my perspective, we had to have a way of describing that. And Tom has many presentations I've listened to and have slides from talking about how you come up with these ratings. And the EFI manual, I was just glancing at some of the pages the other day. How do you start, right? Describing this very important versus less important. And the richness of it has to be based on the data. So so people who come to Deduced who say, how do I accomplish inter-rater reliability in a qualitative approach with these ratings? It's hard. Okay, it takes some work, but boy, when you can accomplish it, it's tremendous. The data integrative possibilities that it allowed us, and that's where our technology, I think, has really been able to boom.
One of the great advantages of Deduce, and it was important in our development of Deduce, is to be sure we captured reliability as traditionally measured, as Eli was measuring it. Also, validity, that is, does it actually match the narrative experience or behavior of the family or of the medical establishment or whatever you're measuring. And then there's veridicality. Veridicality means um, uh, give me an example of something. Tell me specifically what when you code a 5, give me an example of what a person who scores 5 on a rating would do, would look like, would say, would feel. And if you can do that, now you have something that's truly interpretable and meaningful. So we always try to include those three things in assessment, and that's why the EFI has a little interpretation or story of what someone with a 5 or a 7 or a 2 would think, would feel, would do.
Yeah, and I'm compelled to just say that part of what we're talking about is sort of the methodological foundation of where Deduce came from, and as a tool, under Jason's leadership, it's a fantastic tool. I'm getting some. Yeah, forget about what I'm hearing. Everybody's hearing it. It's wonderful. We've accomplished marvelous things with the technology itself to serve this goal. That's what we were always after in building this stuff. We were just wanted to do our service better. And so what I'm compelled to say here, as we talk about how do you do it, how do you accomplish these things, you need the tools. Yes, Deduce can be it or not, but you've also got to have a framework for thinking about it. You've got to have the knowledge base. And when we conceived of the Institute for Mixed Methods Research, I don't know how many years ago, that's what we were thinking about. In addition to all of the other things that we, the ambitions that we had for what kind of services could a research, more academic branch of the Deduce operation provide.
Eli mentioned the EFI, or Ecocultural Family Interview, which emerged from this perspective that you want to be able to integrate many different ways of trying to understand interpretive significance. And one example of this is a mother who had kids with disabilities who was participating in a roundtable, and one of the quantitative researchers in the audience asked her to talk about the family assessment scale, which is one of the rating scales that we use. And she paused for a second and then she said, "You know what? Let me just tell you what I do every day to take care of my son. I'm just going to start in the morning and I'm going to walk through the day. Here's what we have to do: getting him up and dealing with school and dealing with temper tantrums and all the things that this mother had to do." And that leads to the ecocultural family interview part of all this, which is, so how do you capture this kind of information? And what we decided to do, based on ecocultural theory and activity theory, was to ask parents and kids and other people who were participating in our various research projects to walk me through their day. From the time you start to the time you go to bed, what are the activities that you do? Who is there? How are you feeling about those activities? Do you have the resources necessary, or are you struggling to get those resources? Um, uh, do you feel it's sustainable? Can you keep doing this, or is it always, a margin on the edge? You're struggling all the time. Can you persist and do it on a routinized basis, which of course makes it easier? If you could change something about your daily activities and your routine, what would you like to change? These were very revealing about the context, the circumstances, the cultural ecology around the family and the kids and the parents and the schools and all of the institutions involved in many of our research studies. So the interviewing technique that we developed, which is part of the EFI that Eli's
this
mentioning,
is important history.
is the interview starts not with asking someone, "So on a 7-point scale, how happy are you with how things are going in your parenting these days?" It does not start with that. It starts with saying, "Take me through your day. Tell me about it. Start with the morning. Tell me about good and bad experiences and so on. Walk me through." And then you use that narrative, that story, to prompt the parent subsequently to compare themselves to others. And when you have that lengthy narrative, you can code it and get scales based on it and compare 100 parents who, after all, have similar experiences in many ways across a large sample.
Yeah.